This week, Demi Moore is on GMA, and she's telling us about her life like we've never heard it before.
Everyone knows that A-list love is never easy. But was Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore's relationship doomed from the start? Or were they victims of their own bad luck?
Hollywood has always been filled with shocking stories, but few have captured as much attention as Demi Moore's relationship with Ashton Kutcher. For years, their marriage was seen as glamorous on the outside, but behind closed doors, things were far more complicated. Ashton Kutcher came into Demi's life when she was still healing from the painful scars of divorce. She was 40, he was just 25, a charming young man who seemed to turn her broken world into a beautiful garden. At first, their romance was the talk of Hollywood, dazzling fans everywhere. But over time, the fairy tale faded, and that same love story turned into one of the darkest chapters of Demi's life. Now at 62, Demi Moore is finally breaking her silence, revealing secrets and painful truths about Ashton Kutcher that will leave you stunned. Demi Moore entered the world on November 11, 1962 in Roswell, New Mexico. But her childhood was far from the Hollywood dream she would one day live. Even before she was born, her father had walked away, leaving her mother to raise her under constant struggle. Life at home was unstable, marked by pain and betrayal. In her memoir, Demi revealed a heartbreaking moment at just 15 years old. Her mother allowed an older man to take advantage of her for $500. The trauma of that betrayal left wounds so deep they followed her for years. Her home was never a safe place. Both her mother and stepfather drank heavily, and the family moved from place to place more than 30 times before she even turned 14. Stability was something Demi never knew. At 12, she faced one of the darkest moments of her young life when her mother attempted to end her own life. With her tiny hands, Demi was forced to dig pills from her mother's mouth while her stepfather held her down. That moment of horror forced her to grow up faster than any child ever should. School offered little comfort. She battled dyslexia along with a medical condition that required surgery on her eyes. By 16, overwhelmed and desperate for freedom, she dropped out of school and began working various jobs to survive, from modeling to debt collection. At 17, she married musician Freddie Moore, hoping love might free her from her troubled past. But the marriage lasted only 4 years, another painful chapter in her young life. Still, Demi refused to let her hardships define her. With resilience born from struggle, she pushed forward, determined to create a better future for herself, no matter how heavy the scars of her past remained. At just 19 years old, Demi Moore's life began to change when she landed her first big break, a role on the popular soap opera General Hospital, where she played an ambitious journalist named Jackie Templeton. More than 1,000 actresses auditioned, but Demi stood out with a spark that couldn't be ignored. She was paid only $750 per episode. But the role opened the first real door to her Hollywood dreams. Jackie was a strong, determined character, something rare for women on television at the time, and Demi's performance quickly caught the attention of viewers and producers alike. But while her career was just starting to shine, her personal life was already slipping into darkness. Off-screen, Demi was struggling with addiction. She partied recklessly, sometimes for days on end, putting both her health and her future at risk. Director Joel Schumacher recognized her talent and refused to let it go to waste. He believed in her potential and made sure she had constant support to keep her sober during filming. His tough love became a turning point in her life. In 1985, Demi's second chance arrived with St. Elmo's Fire, a film about a group of young adults finding their way in the world. She played Jules, a troubled party girl, a character whose struggles reflected her own real-life battles. But securing the role came with a condition. Schumacher gave her a strict ultimatum: get sober or lose the part. Demi chose to fight with the studio, even paying for someone to stay by her side throughout filming. She stayed clean and delivered a performance that resonated deeply with audiences. St. Elmo's Fire became a hit, cementing Demi's place in the spotlight and earning her a spot among the so-called Brat Pack, a group of rising young stars of the 1980s that included names like Rob Lowe and Leo Estes. Though many of the actors disliked the label, it brought them instant fame and recognition. For Demi, the film was more than just another role. It was proof of her resilience and her ability to rise above her struggles. From there, her career soared with films like About Last Night and Ghost. The latter turned her into one of Hollywood's most bankable stars. Years later, the Brat Pack remains part of pop culture history. But for Demi Moore, it was the beginning of a journey that transformed her from a troubled young actress into one of the most unforgettable names in Hollywood. Demi Moore's rise to superstardom is one of those Hollywood stories that feels both magical and inspiring. In 1990, she captured the hearts of millions with Ghost, a film made on a modest budget of just $22 to $23 million. Yet, it went on to earn a staggering $55.7 million worldwide. Audiences couldn't get enough, and by 1991 it had become the most rented video in the United States. Moore's portrayal of Molly Jensen was heartfelt and unforgettable, especially in the iconic pottery wheel scene with Patrick C's set to Unchained Melody, a moment that is still etched in cinema history. Beyond the screen, her short haircut in the film sparked a global trend, proving her influence reached far beyond acting. The success of Ghost wasn't only professional. At the same time, her husband Bruce Willis's Die Hard 2 was lighting up theaters, and for a brief magical moment, the couple held the top two box office spots simultaneously, a feat unmatched by any other married Hollywood pair for over 3 decades. Critics and fans alike admired Moore's performance, earning her a Golden Globe nomination and a Saturn Award, recognition that celebrated both her talent and her dedication. Ghost wasn't just a love story. It was a daring blend of romance, comedy, and supernatural elements, showing that audiences were ready for fresh, creative storytelling. Its success inspired filmmakers to take more risks and explore stories that went beyond the ordinary. After this breakthrough, Moore continued to prove her versatility. In 1992, she starred in A Few Good Men, alongside Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, commanding the screen as Lieutenant Commander Joanne Galloway and helping the film earn over $243 million worldwide. Then came 1993's Indecent Proposal, a provocative story that asked whether a married woman would sleep with a stranger for $1 million. Moore's performance as Diana Murphy sparked heated debates about morality and relationships, and while some critics and feminists felt the film treated women unfairly, Moore later admitted that facing such backlash was one of the most challenging moments of her career. Yet instead of retreating, she embraced these bold roles, seeing them as a way to challenge societal expectations of women and redefine what Hollywood leading ladies could do. Through her groundbreaking performances, daring choices, and the vulnerability she brought to every role, Demi Moore not only captivated audiences, but also left a lasting imprint on Hollywood. A reminder of a time when a star could be both glamorous and deeply human, bold and unforgettable. Demi Moore's story began with a choice that revealed just how young and vulnerable she really was. At only 17, she married musician Freddie Moore on February 8, 1980. Looking back, she admitted that the marriage wasn't born out of love. It was her way of escaping the heartbreak of losing her stepfather. In her memoir, Inside Out, Demi confessed that even on the night before the wedding, instead of being filled with joy, she was on the phone with another man she had recently met. Deep inside, she already sensed that the marriage was fragile and unlikely to last. She took Freddie's last name and carried it as her stage name, which the world would one day know so well. They even collaborated on music, creating the song It's Not a Rumor, which enjoyed a small success. But behind the scenes, the marriage was difficult. Demi was still a teenager trying to find herself while being thrust into the responsibilities of adulthood. Later, she admitted that she sabotaged the marriage because she knew it wasn't right for her. By 1985, it ended, leaving behind lessons about love, trust, and identity that shaped the woman she would become. Her life took a brighter turn when she crossed paths with Bruce Willis in 1987 at a movie premiere. At the time, Demi was engaged to Elio Estes, but the spark between her and Bruce was undeniable. Just 4 months later, during a trip to Las Vegas for a boxing match, Bruce proposed, and they married impulsively on November 21, 1987. For a while, it felt like a fairy tale. Bruce's career soared with Die Hard, while Demi became one of Hollywood's highest-paid actresses. Together, they had 3 daughters, Rumor in 1988, Scout in 1991, and Tula in 1994, making them one of the most famous families in Hollywood. But success came with its challenges. Bruce longed for Demi to spend more time at home while she was unstoppable in her career, breaking records and making history by earning $12.5 million for striptease. Their busy schedules and different visions of family life created distance, though they still shared deep respect for each other. They even appeared together in the film Mortal Thoughts, showing the world their connection. By 1998, after 11 years of marriage, they decided to part ways. Yet, unlike many Hollywood divorces, theirs was filled with grace. They remained friends, raised their daughters together, and continued to show up for each other, even attending one another's weddings in later years. Their blended family became a rare example of love beyond marriage. Balancing motherhood and career was always Demi's greatest struggle. When she welcomed her first daughter, Rumor, in 1988, she refused to slow down. In 1991, she made headlines by proudly posing nude while pregnant with Scout on the cover of Vanity Fair, an image that became iconic, redefining how the world saw motherhood and womanhood. On film sets, she went the extra mile to keep her children close, even arranging a nursery for her youngest daughter while shooting G.I. Jane. Still, no matter how much she did, Demi often battled guilt, feeling she wasn't there enough. After her separation from Bruce, Demi made a bold and selfless choice. She walked away from Hollywood's spotlight and moved to Idaho, determined to give her daughters a life that felt normal and grounded. Even though it meant stepping back from her career, it showed the depth of her devotion as a mother. Through all the glamour and all the struggles, Demi Moore's journey has always been marked by her resilience, her sacrifices, and above all, her fierce love for her family. In 2003, Demi Moore crossed paths with Ashton Kutcher at the New York premiere of Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. Demi was 40 and Ashton was 25, yet the age difference did little to dull the spark between them. Demi was instantly charmed by Ashton's wit, and within just one day, the two found themselves on an 8-hour phone call, opening up about their hopes, dreams, and philosophies. That deep conversation became the foundation for a romance that moved faster than anyone expected. Only 3 weeks after meeting, Ashton had already been introduced to Demi's daughters and even her ex-husband, Bruce Willis. Just 2 months later, Ashton surprised Demi with a midnight beachside picnic in Santa Barbara where he spelled out "Marry me" with rose petals. He slipped a 5-carat Asher-cut diamond ring onto her finger, a dazzling piece worth around $250,000. By the 4th month, they were living together and had launched their own production company, Catalyst Films. Their first project, Beauty and the Geek, quickly became a success, cementing their image as Hollywood's newest power couple. But beneath the glamour came heartbreak. 6 months into Demi's pregnancy, she suffered a devastating miscarriage. The tragedy shattered them. Yet, they sought healing through grief counseling multiple times a week. Ashton would later admit that this loss showed him he was ready to be a father, strengthening his sense of commitment to Demi. The press, however, fixated less on their grief and more on their 15-year age gap. When they appeared together as a couple at another Charlie's Angels event, the frenzy was overwhelming. Hundreds of photographers swarmed them, and tabloids offered huge sums for a photo of them kissing. Comedians had a field day, and the term cougar became a pop culture buzzword, with Demi unfairly labeled its poster child. Instead of being crushed by the jokes, Demi leaned into them, appearing on Saturday Night Live in 2005, wearing old-age makeup and humorously mocking her age difference from Ashton. That same year, in September 2005, the couple tied the knot in a quiet ceremony at their Beverly Hills home with just 100 guests, including Bruce Willis. Demi walked down the aisle in a Lansing gown, while Ashton wore a cream Brooks Brothers suit. The two exchanged vows under a traditional Kabbalah chuppah. One of the most emotional moments came when Demi's daughters, Rumor, Scout, and Tula, read letters to Ashton. In return, he gifted each girl a Cartier love bracelet, symbolizing his commitment not only to Demi, but also to her children. Even Bruce was said to be moved to tears by the touching ceremony. After the wedding, the couple embraced their blended family life. They bought a home in Idaho where they spent holidays together, hosted themed parties, and even vacationed alongside Bruce Willis and his family. Bruce openly praised Ashton, saying he was one of the few men his daughters ever said, "I love you too." At only 27 years old, Ashton stepped into the role of stepfather, raising 3 girls aged 17, 14, and 11. He learned to French braid their hair, attended school events, and even took parenting classes to better understand his role. He encouraged their passions, helping Rumors start her Twitter account and producing her film, The Whole 10 Yards. Scout later credited Ashton for inspiring her love of technology, which eventually led her toward studying computer science. Still, the adjustment wasn't seamless. Tula admitted she struggled at first to view Ashton as a father figure, while Rumor confessed she once had a crush on him before he began dating her mother. Despite those challenges, Ashton remained dedicated. Even after his marriage to Demi ended, he supported the girls publicly, cheering Rumor on during Dancing with the Stars and celebrating milestones in their lives. In 2020, Ashton expressed that he would always love and support them, showing that his bond with Demi's daughters had outlasted the marriage itself. For Demi, one of the darkest chapters came when she and Ashton discovered during a routine checkup on September 23, 2003, that the baby girl they were expecting, whom they had named Chaplain Ray, no longer had a heartbeat. Demi, who had been sober for nearly 2 decades, blamed herself, believing her occasional drinking and smoking early in the pregnancy had caused the loss. Grief consumed her. She turned to alcohol and painkillers to numb the pain, and her weight dropped to a fragile 98 lb. The couple desperately tried to conceive again, turning to IVF treatments, but their efforts failed. Demi later described this period as one of the most painful of her life, feeling empty, lost, and broken. In her memoir, she shared that Ashton tried to support her, but he couldn't fully understand her anguish, and the emotional distance began to erode their marriage. What once felt like an unstoppable love story slowly started to unravel under the weight of grief and unspoken pain. In a desperate effort to hold their marriage together, Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher turned to unusual methods. Moore later revealed in her memoir that she agreed to threesomes at Kutcher's request, hoping it would please him, though deep down it left her feeling empty, ashamed, and confused about their relationship. They also sought spiritual guidance, visiting the Kabbalah Center in Los Angeles and even traveling to Israel for a retreat. But the cracks in their marriage only grew deeper. The pressure of trying for another child, Moore's struggles with addiction, and their wide age gap added more strain. Matters reached a breaking point on September 24, 2011, what should have been their 6th wedding anniversary, when rumors spread that Kutcher had spent the night with 22-year-old Sarah Leal. Moore had encountered Leal before, when the young woman boldly handed Kutcher her phone number in front of Moore and her daughter at a bowling alley. Shockingly, Moore discovered the truth of the affair not through him, but through a Google alert on her phone while she was preparing for a red carpet event. When confronted, Kutcher admitted to cheating. Later, Moore would also learn about another affair with 21-year-old Brittany Jones. Instead of taking responsibility, Kutcher tried to excuse his actions, claiming the threesomes had blurred the boundaries of their marriage, something that only cut Moore even deeper. The scandal quickly became public, making the humiliation worse. Just days later, the couple appeared together at a foundation event against human trafficking, forcing Moore to stand beside Kutcher as if nothing had happened. On November 17, 2011, she finally announced their separation, calling it a painful but necessary decision to stay true to her values. The divorce dragged on. Kutcher filed in December 2012 and the split was finalized in November 2013. For Moore, the end of the marriage was devastating, leaving her self-worth in pieces. Kutcher admitted years later that the divorce made him feel like a failure, and both struggled to cope as their private heartbreak unfolded under public scrutiny. After the split, Moore's life spiraled. Having been sober for nearly 2 decades, she relapsed on January 23, 2012. She collapsed at her Benedict Canyon home during a party. She had been smoking synthetic cannabis and inhaling nitrous oxide when she suffered a seizure, leaving her semi-conscious and convulsing as terrified guests dialed 911. That terrifying night marked the beginning of one of the darkest chapters in her life. Over the next 3 years, her addiction deepened. She reportedly consumed as many as a dozen Vicodin pills a day, washed down with vodka and energy drinks. She became consumed by her body image, spending hours in front of the mirror and convincing herself she needed to lose more weight. Her health deteriorated until she weighed just 102 lb, and the combination of stress, exhaustion, and poor nutrition triggered repeated seizures. Moore withdrew further from those closest to her. Isolated and fragile, she avoided friends and family gatherings, even missing her daughter Rumer's 30th birthday. The woman who had once seemed so strong and unshakable was now struggling to hold herself together, caught in a spiral of addiction, loneliness, and self-destruction. Now at 62, Demi's outlook on love has shifted entirely. In a 2024 interview with Vogue, she explained that the most important relationship in her life is the one she has with herself. She coined the term solo partnering, meaning she's choosing to prioritize her personal growth and happiness rather than searching for someone else to complete her. The concept resonated so deeply that the phrase solo partnering began trending online right after the interview. Her approach to dating reflects this change. In the past year, she only went on 3 carefully chosen dates. One of those was with an astrophysicist she met at a TED Talk. And while their night of stargazing in the Mojave Desert wasn't romantic, she described it as a meaningful and unforgettable experience. Perhaps most surprisingly, Demi has even built a friendship with Moniz, Ashton Kutcher's wife. The two run a book club together, meeting every couple of weeks to discuss literature and life. Fans admire Demi's ability to move forward with grace, forgiveness, and maturity. As for the future, Demi isn't closing the door on love, but she's crystal clear about her boundaries. If she does fall for someone again, it will only be with a person who enhances her life, not someone she needs in order to feel complete.